Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the organizers for giving us this opportunity to present this critical and significant research. To begin with, I would like to give the information that this is an anthropological research part of my PhD, and I did an extensive interview in Turkey of the Uyghur diaspora from 2021, and I continued in 2023 as well. So in part of my slides, you will be seeing that I have quoted interviews, but to the people, I have changed the names who have not given consent, but put pictures of the people who have agreed to. So yeah, to begin with, okay. To begin with, since the topic says something about the context of social harmony in Xi China, so I would be decoding what is the interpretation of social harmony ideologically under Xi Jinping, and also systemic interpretations in Xinjiang. Just to give you a brief understanding, the presentation is divided into several parts, and I would be very briefly touching upon what is the general understanding of social harmony. This is followed by the social harmony concept in China. I would be talking about how Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has failed to foster cohesiveness. So I have to operate both. So how the Chinese Communist parties have failed to foster a cohesive atmosphere in Xinjiang. Followed by this, the Xi Jinping's ideological interpretation of social harmony, and also what is the systemic interpretation. And this is followed by my analysis. Briefly discussing what does social harmony mean. We all know that social harmony has a very subjective connotation, which means that every state individual interprets social harmony according to their understanding. That is why if you talk about states, irrespective of considering the different types of government system, authoritarian or democracy, social harmony is interpreted in terms of conformity or social control. Or if it's a democracy, they interpret in terms of diversity or inclusion. So what is the purpose of having social harmony? Is they want to maintain a balance if it's a multi-ethnic society, because they want to respect the socio-economic, cultural, and political factors. The ultimate agenda is to have a healthy functioning of the state. So as I mentioned that if it is very crucial in a multi-ethnic state to talk about or to implement social harmony. The challenge which is encountered in a multi-ethnic state is that you do not engage or manifest social disharmony. So the challenge is civility and incivility, which is very widely present in Xinjiang. If you see the context or the understanding of incivility, in my research, I will explain that how in the context of Xinjiang, when the two communities, Han and the Uyghur, lives, there is a negative perception between the two communities. Of course, the Han is the majoritarian community, so it looks down upon the Uyghur people. There is lack of awareness of the Uyghur culture in Xinjiang, and also there is a systematic othering of the Uyghur group, which is called the others. So this is in the context of an authoritarian state. If you see that an authoritarian state wants to achieve social harmony, the objective is actually to maintain order. And how it does that, it could be software assimilation if you want to achieve this purpose. But if the state perceives that it has failed to achieve that, it would foster a sort of assimilation. The other perspective of ruling or to fostering social harmony, it becomes a collapse when there is an unequal power sharing in the multi-ethnic society, which happens in the context of Xinjiang, because you see that autonomous status has been granted to Xinjiang region, but there is no real autonomy. So my paper talks about China, which takes as an authoritarian state, and I propose a research question, which is how is the CCP under Xi Jinping using political control and economic prosperity to foster compliance and assimilation to achieve social harmony in Xinjiang? And I have actually used a combination of critical discourse analysis, also textual analysis, to analyze CCP's text, white papers, laws. Also, it's an ethnographic study. So I have interviewed three around Uyghur diaspora in 3 different cities in Turkey. Followed by this, the main purpose or the interpretation is to understand that how the correlates of a society, which is multiculturalism and assimilation, is actually competing in Xinjiang. So to begin with, if you see what does the idea of social harmony is in China, the idea of social harmony is very ancient in China, but the interpretations have changed with the given time. The concept of harmony, the Chinese call as He, of course, has its roots in ancient time. In the main principle of social harmony is divided into filial piety, family level, and community level. When I say filial piety, it means that the Confucius thinker talks about respecting the older generation. The younger generation has to give all kinds of respect. When I talk about the family level, it is about under the pretext or semblance of filial piety, the younger generation has to maintain a healthy relation in the family level. But when you come to the community level, this has been actually a very controversial era, because Confucius talks about respecting under the system of Tianxia, which is under the heaven. But if you talk about the scholar, which is Xunzi, it's okay. Okay. But if you talk about the other scholar, Xunzi, he talks about, sacrificing the rights for the sacrificing liberty to maintain harmonious in a community level. So he actually is a very controversial thinker, and he was criticized for his ideas that individual liberty can be curtailed. Also, if you see, with the passage of time, when Mao era came, social harmony had a different interpretation, because Mao Zedong was more into socialist transformation of the Chinese society. When China started growing up under Hu Jintao, the interpretation of social harmony became as a moderate society. This is followed by Xi Jinping. If you see right now, Xi talks about social harmony and fulfilling its global ambitions. So social harmony has 2 parts under Xi Jinping. It is the domestic level and the international level. So he talks about maintaining social stability and also repressing to attain a peaceful and stable society. It could also mean repression against dissenting voices. So if you see Xinjiang, which comprises of 56 ethnic groups, that's the chart map how the ethnic diversity is there in Xinjiang. You see, Xinjiang has always been a very troublesome region for the Communist Party of China, and the relations between Han and the Uyghurs have never been normal. It has always been a very antagonistic relationship, and that is why the Uyghurs have always felt very second-class citizens in Xinjiang. So the main argument of my paper, which I say, is that there is a China model which talks about social development, socialism with Chinese characteristic. But I say the China model in Xinjiang is, it wants to achieve, it portrays that for the world, that there is an economic development happening in Xinjiang, but this is not the case. It is all about political control, and it is all about curbing the dissenting voices to attack the distinct identity of the Uyghurs. To talk about what's happening in Xinjiang for CCP, because these Uyghurs have always faced a kind of repression against the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP has always felt quite nervous in controlling the situation. The geopolitical situation is such that Xinjiang borders all the 8 neighboring regions, which is the Central Asian region, India, and also Afghanistan. That is why for the Chinese Communist Party, it is very crucial to maintain the peace and stability in Xinjiang so that there is no situation like the Soviet Union disintegration. So under different leaders, if you see, the Chinese Communist parties have tried to maintain a policy which they say as preferential policy in terms of bringing economic development, which they call as Great Western Development. But I would say that this policy has not worked in the context of Xinjiang because, and various other scholars have also talked about this, the wealth inequality in the region of Xinjiang, say for the north and the south, is quite prevalent. The northern region is an industrialized region, whereas the southern region is rural area where most of the Uyghur people live. And I would like to quote here one of my interviewee. He talks about how the investment which comes in the northern region, which is a very industrialized area compared to the agricultural area, which is generally under the Oasis region, which is the southern part of Xinjiang. So what is, she talks about social harmony. This is an ideological interpretation of Xinjiang, where she says that he wants to, before different leaders, the idea was how economic development should bring so that there is a stable situation in Xinjiang. But after she came to power, there is a paradigm shift where he says that economic development will only happen when we have political and social control. This is the reason the fate of the Uyghur people changed. And he shows a very zero-sum attitude, which means that he is striking hard against the Uyghurs in all aspects. For Xi Jinping, the idea is to achieve contemporary stable situation and also to secure stability and control for the future rules. So, which means that he is securing to not have a similar fate like the Soviet Union disintegration. And social harmony for Xi Jinping is linked with the idea of China Dream. China Dream, of course, has different interpretations. It is linked to economic development, but to Xi Jinping, China Dream is something which is called linked with two centennials, which means that the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, which happened in 2021, but the other one is the 100 year of CCP, which is PRC, which is in 1949. So it wants to have all the territory which China say is a disputed territory, for that matter, Xinjiang and Taiwan as well, to be under the semblance of the Chinese Communist Party. And again, the motto of the China Dream means that it wants to have a culturally a unified group, which means that all the Uyghurs has to assimilate in the mainstream Han culture. So this is one of my interviewee, and she has been taken to the concentration camp. The relative of this interviewee is in Turkey, and she's fighting to get her sister released from the concentration camp, to which she says that there is a lot of social disorientation or hierarchical matter in Xinjiang, because even though you say that the Uyghur people are highly educated, they do not manage to secure a high-class job in the native region, which is Xinjiang. All the jobs, white-collar jobs, have been taken away by the Uyghur people. And if I talk about the economic plan plus the political control institutionalization, as I mentioned that Xinjiang is very crucial location for China. It is the main concept of a main location for the Belt of Road Initiative, because the ancient Silk Road is very crucial, where all the trade used to happen and connect the Central Asian region. Under the pretext contemporary time, if you see, Xinjiang connects the Central Asian region and also the European continent. So after Xi Jinping came to power, immediately in 2014, he started organizing Central Work Xinjiang Forum. From this time onwards, he pushed for the idea of the assimilation of the Uyghur people, and he made several changes in the law, which I say as political control institutionalization. National security law and counterterrorism law was actually implemented, and this led to the systematically strike hard of the Uyghur people. If you see, the Global Times have been a vocal mouthpiece of Xi Jinping, which says that a lot of development and investment is happening in Xinjiang, but my data would prove a different scenario. So the repressive mechanism of Xi Jinping is, in terms of systematic interpretation, is he talks about striking hard against the Uyghurs. And in several of his speeches, this is from 2017 onwards, he has only talked about two words, the goal of social stability and long-term peace. So if you see, under Xi Jinping, recently also from the BRICS summit, when he was there in South Africa, he did a surprise visit to Urumqi, which is Xinjiang's capital. And again, he reiterated the same two objectives, which is maintaining social stability and long-term peace. Xi Jinping is very much paranoid with the history of Soviet Union disintegration. So since he came to power, he has emphasized on learning the reasons why Soviet Union disintegrated. And he actually wants to depart from the Soviet Union model, which is the China is still based upon. So what type of political control is happening in Xinjiang? It's repression, and under repression, it means de-extremification and digital surveillance. If you talk about de-extremification, it means that Xi Jinping has implemented the policy of sinicization of religious teachings, which means, of course, in Xinjiang, it is Islam. So the priests have been ordered to train in the context of socialism with Chinese characteristics. And if you talk about digital surveillance, the entire Xinjiang has been converted to an Orwellian system. By this, I mean that there have been surveillance camera everywhere. The Uyghurs are supposed to give their iris scan, voice scanner, etc. So I interviewed an expert on Xinjiang. His name is Dr. Byler. He was the last person who visited Xinjiang in 2018. Okay, the situation started changing since 2014, but he visited in 2018, and he actually testified that how he saw Xinjiang drastically changing under the pretext of Orwellian system, and how the surveillance mechanism have changed or increased in Xinjiang. The other kind of political control happening in Xinjiang is indoctrination, which means that they are, as everybody know, they have been taken to concentration camp. And I managed to interview one of the concentration camp survivor, where she gave her testified that how people in Xinjiang has been tortured mentally to learn the Chinese way, to become Chinese model citizens, and to accept Xi Jinping's teachings and China's teaching. So here come the data collection, which talks about China argues that it is giving a lot of investments, economic development in Xinjiang. But I managed to collect some data to show you that it is in contrast to the Chinese government argument. So this is just to give you an idea that the population of the regions in Xinjiang are divided into northern region and southern region. Northern region is an industrialized region. Southern is a rural area, which is mostly agricultural region. Northern region is consisting of the Han people settlement. Southern region consists of the Uyghurs living there. So if you see the data, Urumqi is the capital of Xinjiang, which is contributing a lot in terms of GDP development. But if you see the southern region of the Xinjiang, which is mostly populated by the Uyghur people, it is lagging behind a lot. Just compared to 2016 year to 2022 year, and you will understand that Urumqi has grown in terms of GDP, but it is, if you talk about southern region, it has not grown at all. But China argues that investment has been flowing to all the regions, whether north and south. If you see the region of Kashgar and Aksu. Kashgar is supposed to be the special economic zone from 2010, which is in southern region. Only Kashgar and Aksu has been contributing to the GDP in Xinjiang, but the all regions in the northern region are doing fairly well in Xinjiang. And also, if you see Altai, the GDP of Altai in 2016 was 217. which is same figure for which is the same figure for Hazel's Kirgu in 2022. So what was the GDP for Altai in 26 has been the same for the southern region in 2022. If you see the employment-wise, China, Urumqi is the capital city of Xinjiang, but the employment opportunities, China say that it is bringing investment, but the employment numbers say that no employment has been coming. Also, if you talk about Aksu and Kashgar, these two regions are fairly well populated, but the trend for generating employment since 2018 to comparing to 22 has drastically gone down for Aksu and Kashgar. It was 88,000. It has only increased to 94. So even China argues that there is a kind of investment, economic development, increase in export, etc. The employment generation figures does not say so. Thank you, and I look forward to the questions.